All right, we are now live. Welcome, welcome on a Sunday evening, actually the first Sunday evening of August. And we're looking at a severe setup across Virginia tomorrow, which I'll start going through some of the details in a little bit. And my standard co-host, Andrew Smith, is here from his office in Richmond.
Good evening, everybody.
And we also have a distinguished guest, a very experienced storm chaser who also lives in Richmond and who's been out west quite a few times in the plains and also chases here in Virginia, and that's Bill Hark.
Thank you for having me.
You betcha. Well, I tell you what, let me start off things, and I will look at some of the specifics here as we're doing some of this. If I can find what I was looking at here, looking at some of the details. And let me go back to my screen. Okay, this is just a real quick. Actually, I was going to start at the upper levels. Let me go over to this model from the 18Z NAM. This is the run as of this afternoon, and what I'm showing here is the significant tornado parameter. So let me jump up. I was looking at some other stuff. Let me jump up to the 500 millibar level. Look at the vorticities. And what we see here is as I come forward, here's 12Z or 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, Monday morning. You can see a short wave coming through at the 500 millibar level, and it's starting to track across the state. And here at 21Z or 5 p.m., you can see a pretty good swath of vorticity here at the upper levels, right across Interstate 95 level area, and then probably tracking across, say, just north of the 460 corridor. So it's a pretty good lift provided by this upper level system coming through. And if we happen, in fact, if we look at the vertical velocities here, switch to 700 millibars, and I'll push forward to about the same time on Monday. Here we have 18Z, and there we have 21Z. And you can see some areas of lift, vertical velocity here, blossoming across central and eastern Virginia. And as I come down a bit to the next level, to the 850 millibar level, to look at the lower level winds, about 5,000 feet up, we have a strong low-level jet coming in during the midday. This is 18Z or 2 o'clock tomorrow. And here we have at 5 o'clock tomorrow. And look at those areas here in the red are pretty strong for 850. They're in the neighborhood of 50 knots, 50 plus knots, a low-level jet coming across from the southwest across Virginia. So some pretty good lift coming through the area tomorrow. Associated also with some moisture. If I take a look here at the surface, here we have dew points. And of course, we had some very comfortable dew points across the Virginia. But if you look at tomorrow, as we go through tonight, you can see the purples, which is really the 70-degree dew point line. Of course, this is the NAM, so this could be a bit overdone, but still you get the idea. What's happening is there's a warm front pushing northward that's you can see rising up the eastern side of the state. And here at 21Z, pretty much the eastern half of the state is covered with some good moisture there at 21Z. And then just to change to some convective products, give you an idea. Let's look at really quick here at the supercell component. I'm just going to run through this real quick. You can see how that maximizes starting tomorrow morning. This is 11 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and then 5 o'clock. Look at there across the eastern and southeastern parts of the state. Some very strong indications of supercell component or supercell probabilities. And then we have now the significant tornado parameter, which looks here to be, this is at 18Z and this is at 21Z, kind of along the same corridor as we're seeing that lift there, the 460 corridor, and then reaching across into eastern parts of Virginia. So that's kind of a quick overview of what tomorrow's looking like. Let me stop sharing here, and let me go over to toss it over to Bill to talk a little bit about what he's seeing for tomorrow. Bill?
I see sort of the same thing. I mean, you got decent flow at the 500 millibar, and again, I'm looking at Age website. One thing bothers me a little bit is I do prefer to see the, it looks like actually over time, your sort of jet max is actually kind of moving away from the area, which bothers me a little bit. I actually prefer to be on ahead of a max coming in. there's still pretty decent flow with the 500, especially at this time of year. That's pretty, kind of unusual. Also having, what I like is, looking at the surface, again, looking at the NAM, is that we got a pretty nice area of south to southeast surface winds. Now I know, you can get tornadoes around here with southwest surface winds, but I guess it's probably my bias from chasing out in the plains. It's almost, if it's southwest, I almost generally don't go out. But southeast surface winds look pretty good. I'm pretty impressed with that. I guess my biggest concern is that it looks like, if you look at the cams, that looks like it all may go up at messy, kind of messy situation. The other thing might be interesting is you may have one round of early convection. It's possible, that chasers may give up on the first round, and there may be redevelopment right toward dusk. So it could be 2 rounds, I think. But
right. And I think part of that is due to the upper levels are forcing a low to form along the front, and so the early round would probably be associated somewhere near or along the warm front as it lifts north, and then the later round would be along the cold front as it starts sweeping across the state. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, of course you got better backed winds along that warm front. If you trust the NAM, it's going to shift off to the southwest later on. Right. And I think the other thing we need to look at least if you're looking at a warm front target, is it starts shifting northward. I tell you, I hate anything really get north of Fredericksburg into the DC area, and I'm from up there, and that's a pretty miserable area to chase.
Oh yeah, I can tell you all about that. And Andrew knows that's where I used to live, is in Fredericksburg, and when you get much north of there, it's if nothing else, avoiding the traffic becomes imperative.
Yeah.
Andrew, what you got for us?
I've just been checking out my trusty old 3K NAM, kind of comparing it to what you were showing with just the base model NAM. The 18Z run wasn't as aggressive as what you were showing in terms of the composites. The Supercell and Sigtor were a lot more dampened. However, it was focusing a lot more on southeastern Virginia, kind of similar to what the SPC has in their day 2 outlook currently. So from what I can read from the 3K NAM, this will definitely be more of a southeast Virginia kind of setup. Richmond's probably going to be right on the fringe, and just given what the early convection based on the composite reflectivity on 3K NAM, it looks like some of that could be lingering into Richmond almost to the lunchtime hour, which would make me a little nervous about how much that's going to muddy the environment around here. If we're going to get any kind of recovery in the afternoon, breaks in the clouds, the sun's going to heat things up. So that's almost going to have to be kind of a play-by-ear kind of thing. Just watch how that develops during the day, see what kind of atmospheric recovery we can get into the afternoon to even take advantage of these other parameters with the winds and the shear and things like that. So that's going to be my focus tomorrow as the day goes on, to see how things clear out. I think the further south you are, the earlier you're going to clear out. It's everything's just lifting from southwest to northeast in response to the warm front. So that'll be my main area of focus tomorrow, to see how things clear out. And if I get the opportunity to head southeast, I'll try to. But usually southeast chases, especially, storm motion looks like it's going to be more of a west to east. So you have some decent routes down there. 460 is a good road, but since it's angled, a lot of your side roads coming off there are windy country roads. They go through open farmland, but they tend to zigzag a lot and not give you a trusty route to stick with the storm. So that'll be my main focus as the day goes on tomorrow.
Okay. Hey, Bill, I know you've chased a lot in the plains, and of course you chase here in Virginia, and we're talking about a potential warm front chase or warm front, helping to kick things off tomorrow. What if you could just briefly compare your experiences with warm front storms around here versus warm front storms out on the plains?
Well, I mean, actually, I've had some really good, probably better luck with warm front storms in the plains than like say your typical dry line chases. you know, the difference is you tend to be a little, you know, a little muddier as far as, you know, visibility may not be quite as good. Not usually is pretty, but I've seen some really intense tornadoes out west. And in Virginia, it's been sort of more, you know, again, your visibility is not the best. But I've had some good chases on those. Again, it's kind of hard to, you know, if you're trying to chasing a warm front going north, again from where I am right now, it usually brings you up into the DC area, and you know, I've actually on a couple occasions blown it off and then gotten into trouble and missed some good things.
Yeah, that's the frustrating part. Go ahead, Andrew.
What I was gonna say was around here, you know, a lot of our warm front chases are kind of focused in the earlier part of the season, you know, April, May, June time frame, and that's where we're still dealing with the wedge kind of sticking around here. So instead of our north of the warm front, instead of, you know, out in the plains, your north of the warm front tends to be a little more, I guess, clearer or not quite as muddied. Here you got that just awful, dense, stable, cool air that these storms just run right into. And just it makes the storm visibility around here just awful to see anything. So I mean, I know you kind of get similar dynamics in the plains in terms of just being a more cooler, stable air mass to the north, but it just seems having that cool Atlantic air mass here just makes it a very different environment between sides of the front as compared to out in the plains.
I also find that with you know, trying to predict where the wedge is the models don't do a very good job at that.
Mm-hmm.
Amen to that. You know, Andrew and I have talked about that on prior broadcasts, and especially when here in Roanoke and the Southwest Virginia, the wedge kind of clears from here first, and it's a matter of timing as to whether or not it gets to the Richmond area early enough in the day, or actually before sunset, before things can even happen. So I'm looking at things around here, say the Route 29 corridor down South Boston, even maybe over to Clarksville area, happening fairly early during the day, you know, during that warm front passage. But I think the cold front may get here too late. It may get here after dark, and I'm not a good after dark chaser.
I will do a little bit in the plains, but I don't touch unless it's like you know, sitting under something, getting lightning photos off in the distance. I don't do dark at all around here. I won't. Too dangerous.
Yeah, the only time I've really done a dark chase here was last summer when it was late May, and I was following a storm into the dark, and so I just tried to get some lightning shots as it went tornado warning coming into the Boswell area. But then I had to get home before the squall line, that nasty squall line came through Richmond and knocked out power all around, at least my part of the woods out here in the West End. It was nasty, and you know, you can't. All I could see driving home was power flashes coming in from the west. So that's nerve-wracking when you're seeing that in the distance, and you're used to that being a sign of tornadoes ripping up transformers, and you know, wind is doing something and it's coming your way. So it's a little scary.
Right. Let me pull up another screen here while we're talking, and this will go to. Come on, here we go. This will go to one of the WRF models. Talked about the convective and allowing models. This is which one is this one? This is the WRF, the NNMB, and this is the 12Z run this morning. And if I run this forward, this is just showing convection here. Here we have overnight, we've got a massive rain entering Southwest Virginia. And then you can kind of see here at 15Z, this is 11 a.m. tomorrow. You can kind of see an initial line set up as we talked. Here's 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and all this is along the eastern sections of Virginia, which is associated probably with that jet streak and the upper level vort that's going through. And then you get closer to sundown. Here's 8 o'clock 0Z, and this is probably associated with a prefrontal trough, or maybe I guess the front itself was back over here in West Virginia, looking at the radar. Simulated radar reflectivities, but you've got some interesting storms here in the center part of the state about sundown. So that could be that second round, and that, you know, for me, if this were what it would look like, you know, close to this, I would probably be along the 460 corridor, maybe Lynchburg area, probably, by 6-ish or so tomorrow evening to kind of get in front of this. So that's kind of where I would go with this. But, again, that's simulated radar, and it's not something that that always sets up that way.
Yeah, if that was the setup, that would be nicer, having storms more coming in from the west and on the northwest. I always tend to not have very good luck trying to chase storms that start south of me and stay south of me. I've had troubles keeping up with them dealing with the rivers and things like that east of Richmond. So anything north and west of town is a little better, more my playbook.
Right. So, Bill, you've said before we went on the air that you probably wouldn't get a chance to chase tomorrow. Will you be just kind of sitting by the computer screen salivating?
Yeah, well, I have a mother-in-law that's having some surgery in the morning, and then doing maybe buying a car in the early afternoon, and I'm supposed to be working until 5. I may take some time off in the afternoon, but it's going to be doing stuff like that. So, if I do go, my range isn't going to be that good. But actually, I mean, looking at tomorrow, if I did have free range, I probably would, at least initially sit at maybe the north side of Richmond initially to sort of look at data as it comes in, and then adjust from there. Now I'm probably a little more northerly biased than I think you all are as far as looking at stuff in Southeast Virginia, but I think Richmond would be a good place to at least initially start off in.
Right, and I think Andrew alluded to it. I think tomorrow, not only is it obviously watching where things might blossom, but keeping an eye on the surface obs and finding out where that warm front is, and then where the sun does clear out. Where are we going to get some destabilization, or is it going to be one big massive cloud shield that kind of messes with the instability?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was speaking with communicating with Mark Overbeck earlier, and he alluded to the same thing. He's worried about any kind of cloud shield dampening the environment going into the afternoon hours. So that, as we've said all along, that's going to be the thing to pay attention to, is to put the models aside and just start looking at what the surface obs are doing and what the satellite's looking like.
Yeah, that's one of my mantras when I was first take the Hokie storm chasers out. The first time chasers that I would harp on them to that's fine to have your phones. It's fine to have your computer screens, but when storms start firing, look out the window. Quit looking at the screen.
Yeah. What it's telling you every 5 minutes isn't beating what your eyes are telling you in real time out there.
Exactly. So Bill, just real quickly, we kind of touched on tomorrow, and of course there may be some other stuff come along too with this unusual northwest flow, eastern trough pattern. But what about in your experiences in the plains out there? What would you say if you could give your top 3 experiences out there in the plains? What would you say they'd be?
Oh, that as far as photogenic, of course, Dodge City, and the Quinter tornado back in 2008, I believe, and also Baudo in 2010. I think those were my top. Oh, and Shawnee, which is sort of, everyone forgot about Shawnee in 2013 because there was more. The following day, but Shawnee was an amazing one. Now, as far as getting scared to death, like pretty much every other chaser, I got caught in that El Reno storm, and in that case, I was on 81 heading south, and basically got in the outer circulation. Felt it shift my car. Luckily, I managed to get out barely. I think probably Mike Bettis would have been just not all that far to my north, and of course he got nailed. But that was pretty scary. And then you think you've escaped, and then you got traffic going south, being funneled southward through the few roads that cross the river, and with more. And as far as scary, that I don't want to repeat that. That was too scary for me.
I don't blame you. Those are pretty hairy storms there. So Andrew, if you, I mean, you were on the Bowdle tornado too back in 2010, weren't you?
Yeah, I was on Bowdle in 2010, and we were trying to catch up to the Quinter tornado in 2008. We had started way south. Shoot, I forget the town we started in. I know we were down in Lane County, and started picking up the storms out of there. It just, those storms were moving so fast that day that just we could only stay on the gravel roads. And I do remember watching the backside of the circulation on the Quinter storm. I think it had hooked, or it had wrapped on the south side, so we just saw this big wall of just moving clouds. We couldn't see the tornado at all. And then when we saw pictures of the tornado later crossing the interstate, we were kind of kicking ourselves for falling behind on that one. But yeah, Bowdle, we were right. We saw that one touch down and then move across. I think it was Highway 31 or something that was heading north up to Highway 12. And we had to reposition to try to. We were trying to keep a safe distance on it, so we didn't get to see it when it was in its glory in the large wedge that went just north of Bowdle. But we made up for it the next day out near what was the town? It was in western South Dakota. There was
a Howells one.
Yeah, that one. We caught that one from the very beginning, sitting on a nice bluff. We sat there for about 30 minutes and watched that touchdown turn into a wedge and just slowly churn across the countryside. We probably stayed on that storm for a good hour and a half. That is my favorite storm, and I've got some really great photos from that one. The scariest situation for me was same day of Quinter. We got hooked just south of Wakini right at dusk, and so we had a beautiful backlit tornado. It was just jet black clouds, jet black tornado with a gold horizon from the sun setting. And the next thing we know, we got hooked, and it went pitch black, and we had hail pelt down in the vans and rain lashing on the sides, tumbleweeds dancing across the road. And by the time we got out of that, our van we were kind of psyched, not knowing what had happened, and our other van was just terrified of what had just happened. It was very, two completely different reactions to the same situation. So, no, that probably doesn't even pale. That probably pales in comparison to what going through El Reno and knowing you have this giant vortex just sitting off next to you, blowing winds at you. So mine was scary enough, so I can't even imagine being in the El Reno situation.
Sounds like you guys had all the fun. Oh. I haven't had anything quite that hairy. Actually, the El Reno, we were out there in 2013. I was out there on both trips. First one was the Moore tornado, and the second one was the El Reno. But we avoid cities specifically because of the fact that we have multiple vans and we've got a bunch of people, and so we were south of Moore when that one came through. So we didn't see that one. And in the El Reno tornado, we saw the storm, but in fact we waited in the El Reno Walmart parking lot that afternoon. But we decided to go to a storm. It was just wound up being a small, severe storm south of there that was basically choked off by the main storm. So we stayed out of that area. But yeah, that was pretty devastating. Of course, when we got the news about the Twistex folks too, that later that day.
It was interesting on that May 20th, the day of the Moore storm. I was also south too. I think it was near Duncan, Oklahoma, and saw some little spin up funnel thing, which I couldn't confirm was a tornado. I think it later was, but pretty much most chasers seemed to go to the south that day, and very few chasers I know actually targeted Moore and intercepted. I mean, they were either there because they got delayed getting out of Moore, or they had followed the Shawnee one up, further, and they were going through. In fact, there were some chasers that drove through the developing Moore storm to go south, and then by the time they realized their mistake, it was too late.
Yeah, I mean, that was, of course, we deliberately made that choice, but we were, in being south of there, I think we were somewhere west of Pauls Valley. I can't remember exactly where we were. It was a whole daisy chain of storms down there. But we saw the Moore storm, the top of it. We saw it exploding. So we knew some bad things had happened up that way. But, well, let's kind of wrap up with this week. Andrew, you got anything else you want to talk about for tomorrow?
Not that I can think of. I haven't had enough time to really dive into the setup to really go at the nitty-gritty details, but just from the surface, I think it's going to be kind of a wait and see kind of thing. Just if it was going to be more of a clean-cut, sunny day, leading up to things, I'd be a little more confident in the level of severe we were going to see out there. My concerns, as we've stated, are just the cloud cover limiting the instability, whether the storms can really get going, get chugging. I think the daytime highs tomorrow are only supposed to be in the mid 80s or so. So it'll just be kind of a wait and see thing.
Okay, Bill, how about you? Anything else you want to say for tomorrow?
Well, I'm pretty excited for tomorrow. I mean, just find those areas where there's pretty decent pretty decent heating. Though I've seen there've been tornadoes in Virginia even on overcast days. Me a little bit is I do like my 850s to be I do like back to 850s, and these are it's predicted to be from the southwest. That bothers me a little bit, but overall I'm pretty bullish. I would be if I didn't have everything else going on tomorrow, I would definitely be chasing, definitely taking time off from work. But I think it's a wait and see. It'll be a difficult chase. A lot of things will go up. There'll be probably two rounds, and I'm not a big fan of embedded tornadic circulations, but that might be what you have at least initially, and then be pushed in the darkness later on. But I think I'm still pretty excited about today. Maybe not as much with the 18, but I think I think Monday will be a good day, and somebody will get something good.
Yeah, I think that's a distinct possibility. Again, it depends on where the sun breaks out and how much instability will be there, and it's all a matter of, do the ingredients all come together at one time? So, hey, Bill, if folks wanted to follow you or to pay attention or catch up with your storm accounts, how would they do that on social media?
Well, I'm on Facebook, but I usually don't do friend requests unless I actually know the person. I'm also on Twitter, and that's at WT Hark, and that's Hark, Hark, like Hark the Herald Angel Sings. And my website, which I have a lot of my galleries, that's Hark Photo, HARK.com. And if you look at Facebook, even though a lot of my storm pictures are listed as public, so you can look on the galleries, and it will be under Bill Hark, and you can see a lot of my storm images. In fact, lately I've been updating more on Facebook and less on my website, just because of time factor. So
I understand that. So, well, hey, I appreciate you coming on with us, Bill, and especially with your perspective. That always helps to have somebody that has a lot of experience both here and the plains to talk.
Are you going to chase?
Yeah, I'm planning to go out. Just depends on where I'm going to go. Obviously, if things start earlier here, I may have to boogie out before lunchtime even to get somewhere in position, because typically, being from here in Roanoke, I've got to get east of the mountains to get visibilities and road systems and stuff. So I may have to have a little bit more lead time than you guys. So, hey.
Because you said that marginal risk out your way, so you've got something to aim for.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. But this time in August, to have this kind of setup come through, heck yeah, it's unusual enough. I'm looking forward to it.
And we got tropical season coming up. So,
amen. You never know where that'll lead.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, this has been a Sunday night edition looking at the convective setup across Virginia for Monday. Stay tuned. We may have some other stuff coming on with this pattern, so we may schedule another one of these. Other than that, we'll sign off here. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone.